Hello readers, today we're going to be talking about the skill of summarizing, which is a big word. Let me say it in smaller words. That is to say, to summarize something is to shorten it, is to tell the short version. The too long didn't read, But we did read this, which is why we are going to use our skills as readers to determine what happened in A New Friend, starring Nevaeh and our little friend the baby sea lion. So there are a couple of strategies for making a summary. One of them is to divide the story into little chunks. Classically, we could go with beginning, middle, and end. Now, what happens at the very beginning of the story? What happens before the story? Now, it seems to me that Nevaeh is on a desert island, right? But how did she get there? Well, it seems like she was ditched there, right? Don't count on ever seeing another living creature, they had told her when they ditched her on the island. Who's they? I don't know, we never find out. Why'd they ditch her on the island? I don't know. We never find out. A mystery. All of that stuff happens before the beginning of the story. When we're at the beginning, what's happening? Well, I would argue that the first thing that happens at the story that we see as readers is Nevaeh seeing. And as she looks out over the sea, she sees what she thinks is a mirage, like an illusion, something that she's not entirely sure is real. She thinks she's seeing things. But then she sees a baby sea lion. So I think that's the first thing that happens, is Nevaeh sees a sea lion. So I'm going to write N, sees, baby SL, which stands for sea lion. Now we're going to say what happens in the middle of the story. And that's going to require us to voop down to the middle of the story here. Now it's important when we're summarizing that we don't just say, Nevaeh did stuff, right? Because sure, that's accurate, but that doesn't really convey any of the important information. It's technically true, but it's not the most interesting version. Like when we're trying to summarize a story, we're trying to put all of the most important information into as few words as possible. Nevaeh did stuff sort of does that, but it doesn't give us all the important information. What's the stuff? That's too vague, that's too general, it's not specific enough. As John Hodgman likes to say, specificity is the soul of narrative. That is to say, the more specific you are, the less general, the less vague you are, the better the story is. And from that, we can say the better the summary is. So what's the stuff that she does? So she dives into the waves. Nevaeh dove into the waves, screaming, "I'm not alone!" But she fails to swim all the way to the baby sea lion, right? The waves were too powerful. She's tossed around. So it can't just be that she dives into the water. Why is she diving into the water? She takes all of those actions in order to rescue the baby sea lion. She dives into the water, she makes a raft, she calculates the approach of how she's going to throw the raft to the sea lion. So I'm going to say in the middle, it's not that Nevaeh did stuff, it's that she rescues the sea lion, the SL. So she successfully does it. She successfully rescues the sea lion. It comes onto the raft, she pulls it to shore, it nuzzles her, it falls asleep, and now it's hungry. So how does the story end? Right? What's the end of the story? Well, the very end of the story, if we look at the last lines, as the sea lion feasted, Nevaeh gazed around the little island. Maybe this place isn't as bad as they made it out to be, she's thinking to herself. Sure, those are the last lines in the story, but what are the actions that have taken place that have led to that moment? Let's go back to the story. What happens? So she pulls the sea lion up out of the surf. The sea lion nuzzles her, it rubs its nose on Nevaeh, and then it falls asleep. And she thinks, okay, this sea lion is going to be hungry when it wakes up, and so she spends the rest of the story. First, she's uncertain if there are fish, then she sees a fish here, right? She surprisingly caught a glimpse of a long, narrow fish. And then she experiments with several different hunting techniques. And first she fails to just grab the fish after she's chased it into a cove. That doesn't work. Then she tries to use coconut to lure the fish in, but the fish doesn't like coconut. And finally, using strong roots from the island that she's been abandoned on, she creates a net, and she uses that net to catch a fish, which she feeds to the sea lion. I'm going to say that the thing that happens in the end of the story is that Nevaeh tries to catch fish for the baby sea lion, and she succeeds. Now she has a new friend. So that's one way to summarize, to say what happens in the beginning. Nevaeh sees the baby sea lion. What happens in the middle? She tries to rescue the sea lion. And what happens in the end? She fishes to feed the sea lion and makes it into her friend. Now, another way to think about summaries and summarizing is to pretend that we are intrepid reporters on the hunt to write a story about this story. Say we witnessed this, and now we have to write it up for our local newspaper. So we're going to have to use the skills of reporting. And reporters like to answer questions like these. Who is the story about? What happened in the story? And why did the story take place? And this, I think, is going to reveal some things that just a straight reporting of the facts doesn't, because of the why. Right, so who is the story about? We know that it's about Nevaeh and the seal. Sure, makes sense. There are no other characters in the story, except for those mysterious people that abandoned Nevaeh on the island in the first place. But we don't have the context or the understanding as to how she got shipwrecked, abandoned. I don't know. What happens during the story? Nevaeh attempts a daring rescue. She tries, she fails, she succeeds to fish for her new friend. And now she has a sea lion buddy. But why? Why does she do it? And for this, I think we need to look at some of the things that Nevaeh thinks and says. Why did she do it? Why did she help the sea lion? Did she do it because the sea lion was cute? Did she do it because she wanted to eat the sea lion? Whoever abandoned her on the island said coconuts are going to be your only food. Is that why she did it? I think not, right? Because first of all, we know the story's called A New Friend. You don't eat your friends. Number two, when she sees the sea lion for the first time, Nevaeh was overwhelmed with joy. The joy was so powerful that it almost overtook her. That's what overwhelmed means. And she's so excited, she immediately leaps into the choppy sea, right? This is not a calm ocean. She flings herself into the surf saying, "I'm not alone." Why would a person do that? I would argue because she was lonely. I mean, imagine how you would be if some people you thought were your friends ditched you on a desert island and said, "Enjoy eating nothing but coconuts." That sounds terrible. I would be very lonesome too. I would jump at the first chance I could to make contact with another creature, especially if it was a cute little sea lion. That is the skill of summary. So in the future, when you're asked to make a summary, to summarize a story, figure out the things that happened, and then try to figure out why those things took place.